The real disciple loves to be led by a wiser man. This makes his life and the fulfillment of his tasks easier. In fact, it is a relief to be able to serve under the guidance of someone greater than yourself. Let us receive the command of the cosmos, not slavishly, but impetuously. He who understands this obeys not grudgingly, but joyfully. Please try to understand that every cell of our being should rejoice when we fulfill the higher will, as only in this way can we learn and broaden our consciousness. The one who fulfills more precisely will approach closer. The immutable integration into the chain of the hierarchy is a source of strength and a real support on the path. On the path of the soul, the crystal path of the higher law, there is no support whatsoever to grasp or lean upon, save direct obedience to the soul's own decision and command to stand within the crystal light, which gives it sheer power to hold, to walk upright, and scale the sharp incline to the top. The slightest deviation from such course must invariably loosen the feet from their security, cause them to slip or fall. They fall because they deviated from principle, came under the spell of the tempter for the slightest fraction of a second, it may be, thus yielding to the doubts, subtleties, ambitions, and snares of their lower nature, thereby losing their grip on the one sure support for spiritual mountain climbing, the support of obedience and faith. Only if you are on the right path of succession, support flows down to you from above. If you are integrated, you can be certain that the blessings of the hierarchy rest on everything you are doing. You can even make use of the power of the hierarchy if you are working on their behalf and in their name on earth. These, my people, can use my power. Only if you yourself obey those above you, you can demand obedience from those beneath you. A master has won whatever power he possesses by means of obedience to the laws. We had repeatedly spoken about the need to choose a teacher and follow him. It is obvious that in the relationship between teacher and disciple, the duty to unconditional obedience applies even more. The teacher walks ahead. He knows the way better than you. When I speak of the need of fulfilling my indications, I ask you to fulfill them with complete precision. I can see more clearly, and you must learn to follow the indication which has in view your own good. He has a plan which you do not fully grasp. We should always remember that sometimes we have no idea what result the teacher has in mind. A careful fulfillment of the command, that is all that is expected of us. The only just woken up soul is still like a little child who has no choice than to make his first insecure steps trustingly at the hand of an adult. Small children, even without knowing the reason, tend to obey the guiding hand. Your teacher has already overcome the difficulties with which you are still struggling. He leads you on a safe path, which has been tested for eons, again and again, by himself and others. One may remember that we lead those who have entrusted themselves to us along the paths of well-tested magnets. One can trust a helmsman who has already crossed the oceans. It must be clear to the Agni yogi. The concept of succession necessarily requires the concept of leadership. Without obedience, there is no succession. Each teacher has his own requirements. If they do not suit you, you should turn elsewhere. What sense would it make to choose a spiritual teacher if you do not intend to follow his advice? If you really want to be a chela, disciple, i.e. to become the recipient of our mysteries, you have to adapt yourself to our ways, not we to yours. Whoever enters the ashram of a teacher must submit to the rules in force there. Otherwise, it will not be possible to live together in community with the teacher and the classmates. The student of higher wisdom differs from other people precisely in this, that he puts his entire life under the iron law of the disciple, under the rule of the inner monastery. The small success of the pseudo-spiritual ones is due to the fact that they do not get serious with the integration into the hierarchy and the compliance with the instructions from above. If you would pass beyond the masses, you must be subject to higher laws than those which govern material substance. The community of the teacher and his disciples is a fighting force with an almost military discipline. what more nearly compares with our community, a choir of psalm singers or an armed camp. Rather the second. One can imagine how it must conform to the rules of military organization and leadership. The teacher loves those disciples who are devoted to him. How can a servant please his master? Only through obedience. He must give the master what is rightfully due to him. The least what the Lord can expect is obedience. Otherwise, there will be no fruitful cooperation. Cooperation in the work of the brotherhood is possible only on their terms. He who is unwilling to submit is useless for them. So it says in the Bible, "If you love me, keep my commandments. Why call ye me Lord, Lord, and do not the things which I say?" And in Agni Yoga, "My warriors, I can assemble you according to usefulness and devotion." No one may expect personal leadership if he is not willing to subordinate himself. No spiritual teacher will make the effort of personally leading someone who is not even willing to follow the basic instructions, the most fundamental laws of the spiritual path. Why should he spend his valuable time and energy on someone who, in fact, does not want to listen? So that my forces not be spent in vain, you should obey. He who does not obey deprives the hierarchy of the opportunity to lead him. Until the disciple is willing to accept the estimate of the master as to the possibilities for profiting by the personal supervision of that master, the latter would be wasting his time and effort. Only if you are close enough to the higher powers, you can expect to receive reliable instructions. The higher will is transmitted to the closest spirit. Who is nearest to the teacher? The most devoted, the most obedient disciple. The most devoted will be the greatest. Is it not said that Ananda, the most devoted disciple of Buddha, was 1,000 times greater than the other Buddhist arhats? Therefore, not only for humanity as a whole, but also for the individual, there is no progress without obedience. In fulfilling my will, thou givest me the possibility to fulfill thy will. Where is the boundary line between the wills that strive toward light? There are three sources of obedience. First, there are the Holy Scriptures, such as Bhagavad Gita, Bible, Quran, and Agni Yoga. Here, the necessities of the cosmic order are reflected. Next, you have to obey the instructions and orders of your immediate superiors, of the teacher, of the masters of the higher degrees. If in a particular situation concrete directions cannot be obtained, you must learn to act in the spirit of the teaching and the teacher. Ultimately, obedience is due to the law which you find within yourself. To obey also means to trustingly fulfill the commandments which are given by your own higher self.